some people just seem to make it. No matter how silly the business idea it is, whatever they touch, it works. And lots of them are way dumber than you. A coder, the person that has problem-solving ability in their blood. And whilst lots of people making money on so dumb ideas, you are stuck in your 9-to-5 job, staring at legacy code in the technology that you never cared about, but your employer forced on you. And don't take me wrong, I was there too. Torn between different paths, stuck in indecisiveness, trying to build lots of different projects, from which everyone ended on a GitHub's graveyard. Either I gave up or simply the business didn't make sense. But the most important is that I didn't stop trying and I kept learning. And in this video, we're gonna go through the most important things that I've learned so far, from psychology up to economics, through piracy. And if you are new to this channel, I'm Patrick, former developer from Poland, who now helps other developers like me to earn what they really deserve. More info in the description, but to them itself. Today I'm gonna share with you the framework that finally helped me to find something that resonates with me, as well as it makes economical sense. The one that also helps my students, as for example Bastian, who started this way.
That makes me feel a bit anxious. I have some ideas, but I enter into this loop continuously where I'm not pretty sure what to do. I'm not pretty sure what's the next step, or if I have enough skills.
It ended this way.
Okay, so how do you feel about all of that?
Yeah, I feel very confident, to be honest, because I have also searched for similar products or offers like mine, and I have found some of them that are very similar, but I still feel that I can differentiate from them, and they are charging a lot of money as well.
After applying the rules that are in this framework, and I'm not gonna promise you any overnight success formula, because I know that what we see from successful people, it is the end of the road, it is the result, but behind it most often there is a ton of work. If like me, you are not born a model or somebody with obsessive passion that makes you an expert in something naturally, then your path won't be simply covered with roses. It will be full of dilemmas, pauses and failures, but likely lots of them can be avoided when you have a good roadmap. Especially that nowadays business idea is not the problem. The internet is full of entire lists, and we are lucky to live in times where you can basically do money on anything you touch. And business idea, it is no longer a problem. What is a problem is grinding. It's going forward despite failures, rejection, and having nobody clapping around you. When choosing a business idea, there are two main factors to consider: internal ones and external. So the first thing and the first trick is to pick something that both makes economic sense and resonates with who you are. Something meaningful to you that gives you motivation to keep going. At the end, I'll share with you exact questions that help my students to map it out, because that's where the real clarity comes from. Let me show you what I mean. At some point, I realized that searching for a business idea starts from looking inward, from an introspection. Here is something that I told my client Bastian recently, and I think it is one of the most important things I've learned so far.
Business is the art of managing yourself through difficult time.
I know that sounds dramatic, but I think it's true, and I wish somebody had told me that before I started. If you simply don't have something that will keep you going through hell, over time you will start choking. Look, you are going to have days where nothing works, where you start questioning whether it makes sense. Maybe even once when you will think that you have made a huge mistake. And this is why internal factors come in first. You need something that will carry you through that difficult time. But there is also a second factor. If your choices are not aligned with who you are and how you want your life to look like, then in such moments you will simply quit. From the other side, finding an idea that will be meaningful to you, it can be a remedy to majority of your problems. And obviously this is a simplification because human mind is super complex, but I don't want to make this video too long. Let's get back to the example. Recently, I had a client that was struggling with motivation, indecisiveness, and not having a meaning in the work what he was doing. But after finding the idea that was meaningful to him, everything disappeared like with a magic wand. And he started spending every single spare moment that he had on working on his business. And despite not having as positive market feedback, he was going forward because he knew that he has higher goal in that. And on way simpler ground, business is basically a lifestyle. And if you will choose a lifestyle that you never wanted for yourself, then again, you will start choking. then you will turn your life into a nightmare. Okay, finally, these are the questions that helped me out to figure out my own path.
So these are the questions. If you want this entire worksheet, just join our community. It's totally free.
It is simply a lifestyle, and it has to be aligned to your preferences, character, personality, or even the state of your life where you are. For example, in not as far past, I used to love traveling, and at that time there was no point in building anything stationary that would keep me chained to one location. But now I already visited around 50 countries and I want to settle down somewhere. So for now, I could focus on something static, like for example, restaurant. In such retrospection, you have to figure out what are your resources, like connections, money, markets that you already know, for example, through your best friends or your family. What you like doing, what are your strengths and weaknesses, what are your dreams, what is your dream lifestyle, because all of that will not only become your leverage, that you will not start from zero. You were, for example, passionate about something since childhood, or your family is in some business, but also these are your limits. And paradoxically, it will make your choices easier, because the problem is once you have a wealth of choice to the point that you have no idea in what direction start going. If you will start asking yourself those questions, you will see that iteratively you will be filtering out options that make no sense. And all your preferences, resources, and all of those limits and goals and desires will in the end become your potential niche. If you will add to this basic theory about business, you will also see that all the choices have their consequences. Particular product requires particular marketing requires particular sales. So in the end, if you have a good framework, all of those choices and all of the chaos becomes quite simple. And it was the same with Bastian.
Thank you, Patrick.
You're welcome. When we started, he didn't know what to do, he didn't know what he wants to sell, he was stuck in indecisiveness and feeling more and more burned out. And after going through the process of searching iteratively, step by step, we were going into the right direction, and finally he
found a business idea and regained his confidence.
You also have to remember that basically forming a product or service, it is always a process. It is not like a single point on the timeline. So it will never be like it will either work or not, whether I will fly or fall down and kill myself. Every product, every service always evolves, and as an entrepreneur, you have to adapt to the market and market needs. You have to look at it through the perspective of longer process of small gains, where you look for information step by step. On the beginning, you will not know what you like doing, but on the end, you will know that this business idea is your only option. If you want, in our community that is totally free for now, we have a course. Over there you will find a list of questions that will let you to figure out your own niche, a specific area where you will have some advantage. And here is where we start looking at external factors. From now on, it gets more technical because external factors are basically economics. Being passionate about something, liking something, and having extraordinary knowledge about some particular area, it doesn't mean that your business idea makes sense, that economically there will be demand on the market on something like that. Because business is always about other people. You are not building something for yourself, you are building something for real people with real problems, goals, and desires. So our external research, we can bring down to a series of values that make the business make sense.
We have to verify
that there is a niche with demand, and that based on your resources, you can quickly create supply that meets that demand. Once you found your niche, you map it onto the market. And a good market is the one that you have access to, ideally is growing or at least stable, and the one where money circulates.
In other words, there are cash cows that you can capitalize on.
And when somebody comes to me with a potential niche, firstly we list actors operating on that market. The more data you can gather about them, the better. In the end, you have to know everything about your potential clients, from how old they are, through what are their pains and desires, up to what keeps them awake at night. If you know their customer behavior, you will know where to find them and how to talk to them. Doing business with them will be super easy. And remember that in the end, there is no such thing as B2C or B2B. In the end, business is person to person. There is always somebody that you will be signing a contract with. In simple terms, business is about moving people from point A to B, where point A is their current state and point B is their desired state or undesired state. In this scenario, we basically do everything to avoid undesired scenario. Example, somebody weighs 110 kilograms and wants to weigh 85. So they install app that helps them count calories, they buy a nutrition plan, or go to personal trainer. All of those products and services are only vehicles that take them from 110 kilograms to 85. And you have to remember that when starting a business, you have to adjust that vehicle to your potential clients as much as you can, from every single angle, from marketing to sales up to the user experience. The easier going from point A to B will be for your clients, the easier it will be to sell something. Here we have a dummy scale of potential products and services. On the left side, you can see the ones that you do everything for your clients, and on the right side that they have to do everything by themselves. The more effort it requires from your clients to get from point A to B, the harder it is to sell it. It doesn't mean that it is impossible. However, on the beginning, when you don't have recognition, brand and things like that, it is not as simple. So it's easier to focus on things that bring results immediately and are effortless for your clients. Talking about other economical factors. If you want to get out of 9-to-5 job quickly, you have two options. You will sell a lot of very cheap products, or you will find small amount of clients that will pay for something quite expensive. Obviously, in the end, it depends on your resources, but not only from my experience, the second option is easier to implement. And here is why. In economics, we have a phenomenon of elasticity of the price. The more inelastic the price is, the better for us. For example, if you found a cure for cancer, potential clients, potential patients, they would not care on how expensive it will be, because people in such situation often don't care how expensive it is. People will be willing to sell everything they have to save their lives. On the other hand, if you would be selling something that nobody needs, then if it is inexpensive, somebody might buy it as addition to their garden to make their neighbors jealous. But the more expensive it becomes, the demand goes down super quickly. So our goal is basically to look for cures for cancer, because it is way easier to sell something like that than a fountain, and also it will come with expensive price, so it will let you to get out of 9-to-5 job quickly. Luckily, in the IT world, situation similar to cancer is not as dramatic. For example, it is a company having a breakdown of the website and losing sometimes thousands or even millions of dollars over minutes or hours. Solving something like this brings a huge relief and cuts off losses. So after listing actors, look for potential problems that might have and try to categorize them through severity and urgency. Then it is worth taking a look at competition. Maybe there are existing solutions on some markets, or maybe there are solutions on different markets that can be translated to different markets. If market is competitive, it doesn't mean that it is the end, that if you are not the first person in that area, if you are not super innovative, that it is over. Actually, it is quite opposite. It would be way easier to bring pizzeria to some place where there are no pizzerias than to start totally new innovative restaurant with totally new cuisine, because this is something that were checked out millions of times and it worked. So why it wouldn't work for you? Especially that it is way easier to learn from mistakes from your competition, especially nowadays where you can go to Google Maps and check reviews of every single restaurant and see what people pay attention to, what customers value, and what are the crucial points that you have to implement in your business. Other thing is that if there are lots of pizzerias in one place, it means that there is a demand on pizzerias. And nowadays, lots of clients decide about giving you a chance or somebody else, not only based on pure objective value that is categorized by some higher power. Very often people buy something from somebody because simply they like him and they trust him, or they feel some kind of connection. Examples, lots of influencers selling lots of nonsense stuff at overpriced price. So competition means that there is money on the market and there are already people willing to pay for such services or products. What you do at this point is you ask yourself how you can approach it differently. Maybe you can split the big problem that they are solving into smaller pieces and focus only on that small piece and do it better than themselves. Maybe you can take a couple of products or services and merge them into different one. Maybe you can look for other sub-niches and translate their solutions to people that don't know that their problems can be also solved this way. There are lots of different options. For example, my dad started his business in total dragon's den. In very simple village, there were 3 stone masonries, and he started from doing small services for those companies. And step by step, he was growing and growing until he outcompeted everyone out from there, and now he's a single factory in the region. But again, you have to remember that business is not a single point. If you miss a point, it doesn't mean that your ship sinks immediately. You just take a detour, get back to the route, and you sail forward. Okay, so you went through both internal and external factors, you eliminated all the possible scenarios, and you have a final business idea. Hold your horses, cowboy. You have a hypothesis, something like, I think experienced developers from Eastern Europe and LATAM might need help in landing remote opportunities in better paying countries. This is like my hypothesis. Now is the time to test it. Business idea starts when you already know that there is somebody willing to pay for your product or service. Very often people ask me whether it will be a good business idea. I remember once a client came to me with a form for lawyers that was basically generating some legal acts with automatical payment. And he asked me whether it is a good idea. And I told him, if you will go to forums, you will find lawyers, you will sell that product, you will get money on your account, and then you will build it. Somebody will be satisfied with it and will give you a positive testimonial, then it is a good idea. But at this point, we have no idea whether it works because it is simply just a hypothesis and it has to be validated, but it is the subject for another video. If you want to know more, join our group. It's completely free for now. Over there you will find complete framework on how to find your niche and how to start your international career. The most important when it comes to validating your business idea is to do it before you will start building anything. In our group, we do not waste months or years on building something that nobody will need in the end. So if you want to know more, click the link in the description, then join button on this website, and please fill in the form honestly, because we do not accept any bots and ghost accounts. See you inside.